take a walk around of my now newish 2007 Duramax. My Chevy bed started rusting out in 2010, 3 years after I got it. So I dealt with it until basically around this time. I figured I got inspection in 2 weeks and the bed was just completely falling apart to where on the bottom there were so many spots where just the only thing that was holding it together was the rhino lining. This is a Martin's truck bed, and they're out by Lake Raystown, Pennsylvania. They manufacture these in-house. So I got the aluminum flatbed. I like theirs because their decking is it's like 1/4 inch or a little bit thicker than that. Some of the other brands are only 1/8 inch. I've heard a lot of horror stories of people with the cheaper ones, and then they put heavy loads on it, like skids and this and that and the other, and then aluminum starts bending and cracking. So this is aluminum, it won't rust. I decided if I was going to go through with this, that I was going to get the toolboxes. These are, it's a 30-inch toolbox. Now normally when they install, prep these, they have the toolbox mounted so that they can just drop it right in when you go in for install. However, with the truck camper mounts, they weren't sure how that was going to line up, so once they got my old bed off, they lined everything up for the toolboxes. Decided that I still could go with the 30-inch, that would fit, and then they welded the brackets on. Now Martin's brackets, when you get the buyer's brand, they have these long angle brackets that come down and over, and I don't care for those, but actually I realized on theirs they have brackets that they weld up underneath here, and then you just bolt them on, and this is a nice thick gauge aluminum that you can just bolt these up here and everything's nice and sturdy. There's no movement. So if I want to take those down, I just undo the 4 or 5 bolts, whatever it is, and go from there. Another notable thing with Martin's, I liked the install guy. I got along with him really well. And when he was doing the job, I told him that I have a truck camper, that it's very heavy. So normally when they do a flatbed, they utilize 1, 2, 3 mounting points. The first one is up here at that very first gusset behind the cab. So that's the first one that they utilize. The second mounting point would be over the axle. They add brackets. And then the third one is in the rear. Okay. Now when I told him I had a truck camper, if you can see over there, right by the toolbox, that's where the second gusset back is. They usually abandon those and just leave them. But when I told him I had the truck camper, he just immediately got out some more steel brackets and he made one for each side. So now I have a mounting point right here. And then another thing they do is your bed will mount into this hitch here, the steel bed. Now when they take that off, you lose a mounting point. So what he did was he just simply made up some flat bar that mounts here, and then it goes back to the frame on each side, just to give it some more strength in here. I probably will eventually have to redo this hitch. It is starting to rust a little bit. I'm gonna have to be doing framework too, So luckily, now that I have the flatbed, it's going to be easier to get on and off. I can take it down to my buddy's shop, undo 8 bolts, gas tank, and wire harness, and we can lift this up off with the skid loader easily. And I'm going to be getting the frame scraped down and coated. I'm going to replace some shock mounts and this and that and the other. So now it'll just be easier to get on and off. But I do like that Martin's, specifically when I told him that I had the truck camper, kind of like just said, you know what, we're going to do the extra, and they didn't charge any extra money for it. So super happy with that. So this is the stock bed. I don't have DEF, but it comes with the extra port for the DEF. Some of their stock beds, I think they have them for different models where the DEF port might be at the back. So this one was more for like my era truck, where fuel tank's right there, and then, you know, possibly the DEF if you have that. So this is the BX. It's the standard. It's the cheapest one they got. I mean, when you go to Martin's, they have all kinds of stuff you can choose from. So this one has a square back. It has the stake pockets and rub rails on the sides. It doesn't have them on the back. However, I can just add some bolt-on ones in the back if I need to, if I want to do like a back tailgate. I bought the aluminum channel from a separate supplier. This is part of my prep for the truck camper. I took my old truck mat and just cut it off square. So I have this mapped out with sort of about like an inch clearance on each side. And I will be building some sides out of aluminum. I found some hinge down brackets, companies called Hinge Post, and that they'll tilt down. And then the same place I bought this channel from, I'm going to buy a sheet of aluminum, and they also included in with the price, they'll cut it, shear it, and bend it for you. So that'll be an update for the future. This is a universal size bed. So the one thing I don't love about it is, you know, like if I had a Ford truck, that headache rack would probably be even with the top. That one sits a little higher. So therefore, these cutouts are a little high. My one buddy's a metal worker, so once we take the bed off to do some framework, we're actually going to cut that square down so that it's like down with the window, and then I'll be able to directly see to the back of the tailgate. Right now, because that's sitting up a little bit, that's sort of, I can't see the very back of the bed. So that's one thing with their universal thing. I had a truck camper laser mount. Actually, I had to mount it there. I took it off because I just didn't like how it was sitting. And right now, it's mounted right here. So I redid my marks on the camper, and I put my bracket back here, and I made new marks on the camper. So now I can actually, because also being in the center with the cutouts, it's kind of tough to see through those slots. I don't care for all this, but they don't make like, you have to go custom if you want it to be like cut straight across, sort of like a regular truck bed. But I mean, the reason for all this is it's designed that way for strength. There's 2 posts up the center that come down through, and you know, all this is a real thick. So all this stuff plays part of the strength. But I redid my marks on the camper, and so just have the reflective tape with lines on it. Did some back there. And so now I can look through my rear view mirror to do this. The only other thing I didn't really care for in regards to Martin's, now I know this is a stock bed. I'm sure if I would have did a custom job, I could have picked a thicker 1/4 inch aluminum here, but this is like probably an 1/8 or the 90 thousandths gauge, so it's wavy, right? Which doesn't really matter. But now when I mounted this, you can see that space there because of the waviness in the sheet metal. In order to line it up with my mark here, I had to shim my bracket out with washers so that all that would fit and line up, because like this is wavy, so if I bolt it tight, it was actually, the laser was shooting that way when it needed to be here. So I got that all fixed up. We're like dead on to my mark. So, and then I just turn it on from here, and should probably be able to see the green laser. So actually, when I backed my truck up just a couple minutes ago, I just accidentally backed it up like right in line with the laser. So the other thing I have to look at now that I'm getting ready to back this in is that this truck bed is 4 to 5 inch higher than my old truck bed. So that's going to play a difference in my tie downs. So I got these guys. These are the big ones, so that'll gain me like 3 1/4 inches down. I don't want to extend my those tie down brackets. I don't want to really extend them out that much more. I just don't want to. So my thing is I'll probably end up going with these, and then on the old way I would hook it up. I would hook it to this far point. Now if I hook it to this one, that'll gain me a little bit of space. But what I have figured out, if all else fails and I just don't like how far it's extended, I will make 4 plates. I'll make like a triangle plate out of steel, and I will bolt that plate to here like a 1/4 inch steel. I'll bolt it here on the outside, and then I'll have a hole up higher so that then when I run my tie downs, I just won't be extending them out so far. So that's going to be a last resort once I get this on and just see how they're locking down and go from there. I can't get the short ones with this because this is aluminum. It's not a steel bed, so I won't be hooking tie downs to anywhere on the rub rail or the stake pockets. So that's how that works out. So I will still just be utilizing my old mounts. So yep, so once I get this backed in there, we'll see how she sits on there. I haven't had it backed on yet. I've mainly just been working on this guy since I got it, kind of like figuring out the laser, recalibrating everything, odds and ends, stacking a whole bunch of shit in my toolboxes, these brackets up by the cab. I actually had to pull these out to the next hole before these were back. I don't know if I can have them back. I think it's gonna hit, but right now I just have them extended out. So I've just been kind of working on that stuff, and also I was just working on my front hitch. The actual main hitch, it's too low by the time you have a basket on it with a toolbox, so I got a 4-inch rise hitch adapter. So I was getting all that installed. actually had to cut into that to make that fit good. So now that's high enough that like the front of the thing won't hit anywhere, like on a dip in the road or whatever, so I won't be scraping. So I was working on that and just all around doing some stuff with it, but some prep work. But yeah, so this is the Martin's truck bed. I think they're a good outfit. You know, they have different places that install them. They sell and install them. But I went right to the factory. I drove 2 hours to get there. There's a place about a half hour away. And I just didn't really care for the one guy I was talking to. And they were considerably higher in price. So I just said, you know what, if I want to get this done, I'm just going to go to the factory, have them do it. And that also allotted me to where I feel that they would have done things with adding the extra brackets and stuff, the steel, that possibly another place would not have done. So Martin's Truck Bodies, MTB. They hooked up the harness, so I got that. Yeah, so that's what it looks like. So turn this shitty old truck into a little bit newer, I guess, for a while. So I'm in the process of backing this in. Lined up pretty good on my top. A little bit further away, but as I'm backing in, it's coming in a little closer. So, and then I'm checking it with these levels. And so if I hold this level up, I have one on the other side too. I'm just making sure that each side, it's about an even reveal on both sides. So my laser looks to be calibrated pretty good. I have a solid inch on each side of the angle, so should be good. But it's much easier. It's so much easier backing in this thing. I'm still going slow with it. I'm just checking it along the way, just because this is a new setting. But so far, with just having to look in the rear view mirror, that's all I've been doing, is looking in my rear view mirror, and I'm coming up pretty darn accurate. The only sketchy thing is, like, this camper's raised up, you know, 5 inches higher. I wanted to get it raised up above where the angle is, just so I don't hit nothing. But yeah, it's a little sketchy how high you have to raise these things with the flatbed. I also did get the extension feet. I ordered those a little while back, and when we got back from the last trip, I put those on, knowing that I was basically going to be getting a flatbed installed sooner or later. So luckily I got those guys on, so that's allowing me for that extra, you know, so I'm not extending my jack legs up way too far beyond the factory settings. But yeah, so it's going pretty good so far. All right, so I got this in here, and I noticed, so I have it backed in. I'm probably an inch and a half away, my bumpers to the front plate. Now, since this front end is tipped up, once I lower that should just lower and touch. Truck's off. I have it in place right about where I want it. I'm basically even on each side, so I'm pretty well centered. The ground's uneven, so I mean, you're kind of splitting the difference between your marks. I'm good on the top one, a little bit over on the bottom one. That's, like I said, just a difference of the ground. But one thing that's actually working out really nice here is that you can't see the laser up there. So actually it works out that like as soon as I get this backed up far enough, and once the laser's not registering up top because it's getting blocked, that's when I know now that I'm backed up right about where I need to have the right spacing to then lower this guy down. So that actually worked out pretty good. I didn't even plan that out. Nice part is with the old setup, when I had the laser in the middle on the truck bed, I would have to come in through the camper, open the window, and then pull the laser out to be able to get to it. But now with this setup, it's right here. Just flip it off and then just lift it up, pull it out, put it in the truck for the next time. So I'm happy with that so far. I have the truck off. E-brake is on. I always do the e-brake. And then another thing I do when I'm lowering it on and taking it off is I'll chalk the wheels, just to cut down on any like back and forth movement from the truck that would like push a jack out, you know, kind of like in a weird way. When I first got this thing, I had a little incident where I almost sent it down the hill. But that was with the tailgate sides trying to move in and out while it was underneath it. And then I started scraping with the tailgate side of the truck bed, and it was pulling, and it pulled it off the block, and it almost fell. Yeah, that was a scary day. But so, yeah, actually now, when I was backing this in, I mean, it was so quick. I mean, this is like, takes an eighth of the time is what it does with a regular truck bed. But the nice part is like, as I was backing in, I noticed towards the back I was a little bit off. So I was able to just pull forward a couple feet, return my wheel with, you know, and get everything lined up really nice with zero obstructions, in which you can't really do that on, well, not on my truck bed. I had 5/8 of an inch on each side clearance, and it was because of this double cutout. Yeah, it was always a pain in the butt. So, but so far it's working out pretty good. I'm going to drop this guy down on the bed and see how these the tie down things work. So we'll check the fast guns then. Another thing is, I had just made it. I'm gonna be basically an inch and a half away from that generator tailpipe. So I just made it on that mark. So yeah, good to go there. But yeah, everything else is looking like it's going together pretty good. I never hauled a truck camper with a flatbed before, so yeah, I mean, the only kind of strange thing at this point is that, you know, the center of gravity is now going to be a little higher. The camper's gonna be sitting 5 inches up higher. You know, I think it'll still be fine, but I think that there is going to be probably a break-in period trying to get used to this, like how it's gonna drive, that kind of thing. But I guess to counterbalance that, I will have more weight down lower because I have tools in there. I'll have more stored items. The problem with these things is the storage. The storage sucks, especially in these older models. This is the 07 Arctic Fox. So now a lot of the things that we'd have to stuff on the inside that would be maybe sitting up like higher, like chairs, and I have a bucket with like all my water hoses and fittings. Now those things can all be stored down in along the sides, which that'll keep some weight down lower. So, but still you're 5 inches higher. And I mean, from what I've read and understand, is that it's not really going to make that big of a difference, but still, we'll find out. Got the camper on and mounted. Getting good clearance on the side. I got the bottom hooked on the going in from the outside. So actually, because I'm using this hole instead of that one, I actually was able to tighten up my fast guns a little bit. So yeah, I mean, that's good. This gained me 3 inches, and by the time I hooked into that, I had to tighten up the clamp a little bit. So now I'm just not over extending them. Same on this one. Got that one hooked from the inside. So I got that. Everything's sitting nice. Got the even clearance on each side. The legs, they say to take them off, but with the raise in height of the truck bed, I can actually leave those on, and they're basically sitting right about the same height as what they would on the old bed. So got these guys on, all tightened up. One bonus to this is the new location of the fill. I do not have to, before I had to take this arm off because you weren't able to open the door. So now I don't have to deal with that. I can just fill up, go from there. Another thing is the leg, it does sit, because the whole bed kind of sits back a little bit. So where this leg is, I can now sort of like fully open my side doors without, before that leg, it was sitting a little bit more forward, to where the door was kind of cattywampus. It wouldn't open up the whole way, which the next part that I made sure of, my center of gravity, I'm still sitting 3 to 3.5 inches forward of the center of the axle. So everything's working good there. Center of gravity's good. So yeah, there's a lot of bonuses to the new setup. The only downside is I'm getting ready to take this for a spin, but it is higher. It's sitting 5 inches higher, so you can actually see where the top of my antenna is. There was a rub spot on the camper, so it's completely clear of that with the new height. But yeah, it is sitting a little higher, so we'll see how it drives. Should be very similar, but yeah. So other than that, for the sides, you know, this truck bed, this is for work. It's not a dually, so I don't have that extra bed width to really get a substantial size of toolbox in here that wouldn't be hindering that top cutout part. So I'm not doing toolboxes. I'm going to be making my own flip up sides. So when I am like using this truck for camping, if I want to flip it down, I'll have to remove this. So my sides will be a 5-foot section. So I'll be able to flip this whole section down, and then there'll be a 3-foot section, and that's because of this cutout. If I did a full 8-foot section, I wouldn't be able to flip it down because of this. So I'll have on both sides, I'll have 2 like little flip down gates. And like for work, you know, in the sides here, I'd be 2x4s and long stuff. So that's the other reason for not cluttering it up with toolboxes. So, and then when I'm camping, cooler, fuel tank, maybe toolboxes, chairs. We just got like a netted, like an outhouse thing. So stuff like that we'll just be able to throw in there. Toys, if we're going to the beach, umbrella. So it's just gonna open up the opportunity for, you know, to just kind of store stuff how you need to. I'm not getting too in depth with adding all kinds of stuff there. I may add, they have like brackets where you can mount like the rigid toolboxes or the Milwaukee pack out. I may do something like that. I might add 1 or 2 on each side. I'm not too sure yet though. So we'll see how that goes. But other than that, everything's sitting on here nice. This side, even reveal. Yeah, so much easier to back into and to be able to adjust when you're under it. You can just turn your wheels. You don't have to worry about your truck sides hitting it. So it works like a charm. One little snafu was my power cord. So I still just have the standard length. Goes into the 7-pin there. And then comes this way. However, I couldn't get the plug in. There's like no room here. So I had to freaking drill a hole in from behind. I'm gonna put a rubber grommet around that just so it looks finished off. But I searched around to see if I could find like a right angle plug, 6-pin plug, which that doesn't exist. You can barely even find a 6-pin plug. Camco makes them in the RV places, but so I just drilled a hole. That way I can just kind of fish the wire up through and get it right in. Otherwise, you're just pinching the wire. So got that all done. I'll pick up a grommet for that. Also, I'll be picking up a grommet whenever I run to Home Depot, I think, because I'm probably going to need a 2-stepper ladder just because of that extra height. But and then another option on my pickup, I used to have a 5th wheel plug in the back on the side here. I still have my adapter set, and I may run underneath the bed. I may run a length of wire that'll plug into my adapter kit, and that way I could maybe have a 7-pin back here somewhere, because you can buy like I think like 3 and 5 foot lengths too. Like they'll sell like shorter lengths for the truck camper cord sets. So but yeah, so that was the other thing I had to do there, was drill a hole. But what are you gonna do? There's just not much room. I couldn't even get my fingers in there to get that, but now I have perfect clearance for the cord to go through there and be unobstructed. So that's where we're at. I think that's the last of the screwing around I have to do, other than maybe a step ladder. I still got to drive it yet. I got to measure the height, because that's changing. Going to be a couple inches higher than what I was, so I want to get an exact height measurement. But aside from that, everything else is going together pretty good here. And it is nice having this all opened up, just to be able to run that cord in through there. When you have the pickup bed, you're trying to fit it down in there, and then you're trying not to pinch it or sit the camper on top of the cord. So it just makes it easier. So everything so far with this setup is working out nice. I like it. I still just have to test out how the height difference with driving, how that's going to work out. So, but other than that, oh, and another thing that I like about this, being that this bed's a little bit taller, I have more room under there for the hitch. So technically, even if I wanted to, I could get like an additional basket, like a cargo rack, and I could run that in the back there, and then maybe strap down luggage, or maybe like a rigid toolbox or two to it, you know. And that's more like big trip stuff, or, you know, say if we were going on a far away trip, something like that, where we need to carry extra stuff. But so that's where we're at with this thing. So getting ready to take it for a spin here pretty soon. All right, just got back, did about a half-hour spin. I didn't get on the big highway, had it up maybe about 52 miles an hour. Had it on some back roads. All my spacing's the same, nothing moved. So yeah, everything's working good. I had it like on some windy back roads where I was getting some side-to-side motion. Everything was good, everything felt okay. Pretty much felt about the same. I had some, like, hit a bump where I was getting front to back kind of, you know, moving. Camper's still on, everything's good. So looks like a winner. So next I'll be working on the sides for this thing for all my work stuff and be able to store toys in there. So but yeah, so everything's working out good.